Are we being mindful? Season 3 is coming to an end, and I can't believe all of the topics that we have addressed. Welcome, everybody, to the Leaders Leading Leaders podcast. Welcome, everybody, to the Leaders Leading Leaders podcast. I am your host, John Espinosa. You know, one of the things that when we started this podcast and we decided how to organize it, we landed upon seasons. And that's because as we talk about the themes, and this theme of mindfulness that we've been discussing in season 3 is a big one. However, we've broken it down into sizable chunks. So I've been in the leadership business for well over 15 years. As a leader, developing training for a leader, mentoring leaders. And one of the things that I have noticed when it comes to mindfulness is that leaders are people. We are people. We are everyday human beings showing up, trying to do our best. We have good days and we have bad days. And that's important to remember. As leaders, we have a lot of responsibility that is on us. And a lot of times, whenever we make that transition, as we're making that transition from team player, subject matter expert into leadership, and that could look many different ways. It could be in a formal organization where you get a title as a manager. Managers aren't necessarily leaders. I'm sure many of you have experienced that. Or it could be in a group, a social club that you are now stepping into a leadership role, whether it's, again, an official title as a president, vice president, chairperson for that organization, or you're just trying to organize a sporting club. My youngest plays sports, and our team, our parent that does our travel, picks what hotels we're in, gets us into the tournaments, makes sure that people are paying. They're leading the team. Without them, we wouldn't go anywhere. They keep the coach in line. They keep all the parents in line. So whatever leadership looks like to you, mindfulness plays a big part of that. And as we close this season in talking about mindfulness, I would encourage you all to go back and review some of the episodes. And in this episode, I've just written down a couple of the topics that we've discussed in season 3. I always try to keep the episodes in bite-sized chunks where you're able to digest the information, and I give some practical take. I try to give you something to walk away from listening to the episode with. My background as training has taught me that our attention spans are getting shorter and shorter and shorter by the day, if not the minute. So I try to give you enough information to where it doesn't overwhelm you, but it's practical information that you as a leader, again, whether you're leading a team of 20, 30, 500, or you're leading a team of 2, or maybe you are just leading yourself, because that's where leadership starts. The leadership starts with ourselves. So for the most part, review season 3. Go back, take a look at each episode. 1, creating clarity. I think that's one of as we talk about mindfulness, we need to be clear in our minds about the direction, our vision, and in order for people to follow us to that vision, we must generate trust. And that all comes with clear and concise communication. Communication. I will always try to be a better communicator. I got a comment in one of the posts, our social media posts around communication, and one of my non-negotiables is to connect with 3 people. 3 people a day, 3 different people. And it could be somebody that I run into at work. It could be somebody that I just occasionally run into, whether I'm out and about. But I always connect, and then I practice that communication. I practice being clear about what I'm communicating, the questions that I'm asking. So go back and hit that episode if that's something that you struggle with as a leader, as a first-time manager, as a first-time leader within your organization. And I mentioned the building trust piece. So there's an episode around building trust that's very important as leaders, to build trust with our teams, to build trust in others. And that takes time, and it takes consistency. We have to show up consistently in order for people to say, yeah, when John says is what he does. I try to be no different than where I am at work versus when I'm leading a team outside of work. I lead a volunteer organization of over 550 people, and I'm the same leader. I'm the same person. It's consistency. So they can trust that whether I'm in a stressful situation leading a couple people or a stressful situation leading a large team, they're going to be able to trust that John is consistent and is going to show up and do what he says he's going to do. We had some conversation around inclusive environments and what diversity of thought brings to our teams. This goes a lot to our preferences. So as leaders, we think a certain way, we're comfortable in certain situations, and it depends on my leadership characteristics, my experiences versus somebody else in that leadership role. It's no different for our team. They've experienced different things. They've experienced different leadership. And that's one takeaway that I would really ask for you. What are their experiences with leadership? If you're stepping into a new leadership role, that is probably the first priority for you, is to meet with everybody, get their feelings, their thoughts around how the group dynamic and how it has been led in the past, and where you can step in as a new leader, especially to, one, I don't like to change things right off the bat. I'm a big listener, so I try to get in, and that's where that diversity of thought. If you have people around you that are agreeing with everything that you say, you probably need to rethink the way that you're communicating with them. Ask more questions. Be the most interested person versus the most interesting person in your conversations. And that's going to go a long way with the diversity of thoughts, making people feel as if they're included in the environment, and then open up that idea sharing that we as leaders need. We need to surround ourselves with people who are bringing ideas to the table, who are not afraid to fail fast, learn from those, move on. That's how we innovate. That's how we continue to grow. That's how we continue to create that culture of inclusivity within our teams. We also talk about the big kind of elephant in the room when it comes to imposter syndrome, or not having that self-confidence within ourselves as leaders. I shared a couple different stories about my leadership journey, and we doubt ourselves. When we make a bad decision, and we will make bad decisions, there's that voice in the back of our heads that creeps in and says, John, I told you weren't cut out for this role. I told you that you're not good enough to lead people. You should have just stayed where you were at, where you were comfortable. And whether you're a leader or you're just trying to try something new as an individual contributor, you are going to have that self-doubt creep. So we talked about some techniques, some ways that I like to deal with that. I am statements. I am a leader. I am significant. I am a contributor. Those I am statements are one way to quickly reverse that train of thought and get our minds in the right place moving forward. And then other things were, we are going to fail. I mentioned this earlier. So how can we take failure and turn it into success? I mentioned a book that I've read several different times by Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. It's a wonderful mindfulness book. I would encourage you to go out and pick that up. I'm even thinking about doing some book reviews in the next upcoming seasons, or maybe just impromptu stuff on our social media sites, TikTok and stuff. So make sure that you're following me on all those social media sites, The John Espinosa, The John Espo, you can search on any one of those. And then of course our YouTube channel. This channel is going to be the main place where we post our shorts and our long form videos, our podcast videos. So make sure that you're subscribing to that. One thing though, as we move forward in failure, is that we learn from our mistakes, we take those lessons learned, and then we implement them fast, and we're on to the next. We're on to, you almost in failure, you got to be overly optimistic to a point to where they're going to get tired of you saying, this is going to work. We are going to succeed. It has to be that way as a leader in order for people to get out of that failure mode and look forward. Especially if you are just establishing that culture, you as a leader almost be on the way side of glass is half full. We're going to get through this. We are going to do this. Whatever you got to do to convince yourself first, and then convince the team that you're going to get through those hard times. Leadership is about ebbs and flows. So we have to ride those ebbs and flows and lead according to the situation. Lead according to the situation. You're going to lead situationally depending on success, failure, where you're at, if you're static, if you're trying to implement through change, if you're moving people around or maybe pivoting and moving in a different direction, you're going to have to lead through all those situations. And then last but not least, we talked about this being comfortable with the uncomfortable. As leaders, our job is to make sure that we're moving the organization forward. We're communicating and leading change. We are having those difficult conversations when they need to be had. All of that is uncomfortable, but that's where we live. We live in the uncomfortableness. When things are going great, that's when I'm like, okay, where can we get better? When things are bad, I'm just trying to right the ship and make sure that everybody has that sense of we're going to be okay, we're moving forward. But that's uncomfortable for people, especially those falling into the leadership role. Maybe you're temporarily being assigned as a leader. Where do you go? How do you establish your culture? You may be looking for that next opportunity, that next promotion. So a lot of it's going to be, I got to show my boss, the leaders above me, I can do this job. A lot of that's uncomfortable. So as leaders, the more systems, the more processes, the more experience that you will have and you will gain in your leadership journey is going to create that comfortableness when uncomfortable situations come around, because they will come around. And then just believing in others, believing in yourself as a leader. You can do this. I am worthy of being a leader, and believing in others that they are doing the job that they need to do is going to go a long way in creating that team dynamic. So I would encourage you, take a look at any of the episodes in season 3. We're on to season 4. This time is flying and we are having a great time. I hope you are enjoying everything that we're putting out. I encourage you to share. Thank you for being part of the Go Be Great community. We are helping others, and it starts with you, get to where you're going. Join us for season 4. You're not going to want to miss it. Go be great. Talk to everyone later. Bye. If you enjoy what you're hearing, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps us get others to where they're going.